The warning klaxons aboard the horizon startled Dr. Lyra Bennett from her microscope. She blinked, eyes adjusting from the micro-scale wonders of deep space bacteria to the sudden flashing red of emergency lights. Dr. Bennett to the bridge immediately. Captain Reeves' voice carried an edge she'd never heard before. Something big was happening. Lyra secured her samples and hurried through the research vessel's corridors, her heart racing with equal parts anxiety and excitement. After 18 months studying microscopic life in the Kuiper Belt, any break in routine meant potential discovery. The bridge crew stood clustered around the main view screen when she arrived. Through the window, a strange object tumbled against the star-filled backdrop, roughly oval-shaped, with a surface that seemed to shift between solid and translucent. "What am I looking at?" Lyra asked, moving closer to the screen. "Unknown vessel," Reeves replied, his weathered face grim. "Appeared on our sensors 20 minutes ago. No response to hails, but we're detecting a life sign. Faint, but present." Lyra studied the readings scrolling across the nearest terminal. The energy signature was like nothing she'd ever seen, a complex quantum frequency that seemed to pulse in time with the fluctuating surface of the craft. "It's dying," she whispered, recognizing the degrading pattern. Whatever was inside that pod was losing cohesion at the molecular level. "Can we bring it aboard?" she asked, already calculating quarantine protocols in her head. "Too risky," Security Chief Torres interjected. "First contact protocols. We'll get someone killed if we wait for proper channels," Lyra cut in. She turned to Reeves. "Captain, that life sign is failing. Whatever's in there won't survive a bureaucratic debate." Reeves studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Prep Quarantine Bay 2. Torres, assemble a containment team. Let's do this by the book as much as we can, people." The next hour was controlled chaos as they carefully tractored the alien pod into the horizon's hold. Up close, its surface was even more mesmerizing, like liquid crystal constantly shifting between states of matter. Lyra stood at the quarantine barrier, suited up in full isolation gear. As the pod's surface suddenly rippled and parted, the being that emerged took her breath away. It was humanoid in basic form, but seemed to be composed entirely of living crystal. Its skin was faceted and translucent, with what looked like streams of light flowing beneath the surface. But the crystalline structure was clearly degrading, whole sections turning cloudy and brittle. The alien's eyes opened, geometric patterns of pure light, and fixed on Lyra. A voice echoed in her mind, like wind through crystal caves. "Help, please. I'm Dr. Lyra Bennett," she said aloud, stepping closer to the barrier. "We want to help you. Can you tell me what's wrong?" The alien's form flickered, like a faulty hologram. "Degradation. Quantum resonance failing. Need stabilization." "What do you need to stabilize?" "Tell me how to help you." "Earth. Minerals. Specific frequency." The alien's form wavered more violently, pieces of crystal actually starting to crack and fall away. Lyra's hands pressed against the barrier in frustration. So close, yet unable to do anything but watch. "Stay with me. What's your name? Where are you from?" "Naira. Of the Crystalline Collective. Centauri system." Images flooded Lyra's mind. Vast crystal cities orbiting a distant star, beings of living light, and geometry moving through structures of impossible beauty. But the images fractured and scattered as Naira's form destabilized further. "Medical team to Quarantine Bay 2. Lyra shouted into her comm. "And get me every scanner we have. We need to analyze her quantum signature before." Naira collapsed, her crystalline form shattering into thousands of glittering shards. But as Lyra watched in horror, the pieces drew back together, reforming into a rough approximation of her original shape, though now clouded and cracked throughout. "Help me." The words echoed in Lyra's mind as Naira fell into what seemed to be a form of stasis, her light dimming to a bare flicker. Hours later, Lyra sat in her lab surrounded by readouts and analysis results, her untouched coffee long since gone cold. The quantum resonance patterns were unlike anything in their databases, a complex harmony of frequencies that seemed to be the key to Naira's crystalline biology. But that harmony was degrading, falling into discord. Captain Reeves found her there, still poring over the data. "Earth's calling," he said quietly. "Military sending a ship to take over the situation." Lyra didn't look up from her screens. "How long?" 3 days at best speed." "She doesn't have 3 days." Lyra finally met his eyes. "I think I know what she needs, but you're not going to like it. Try me. There are minerals in Earth's deep ocean trenches, specifically around hydrothermal vents, that resonate at frequencies similar to what I'm seeing in her baseline readings. If we could synthesize them in the right combination. You want to divert to Earth. That's at least a week off our scheduled route." "She'll die if we don't try something," Lyra insisted. "And this could be our best chance to establish peaceful first contact with an advanced civilization. The Crystalline Collective. Think of what we could learn from them." Reeves was silent for a long moment, then sighed. "Plot the course to Earth." "But Bennett." He fixed her with a stern look. "This is on you. Whatever happens." "Understood, Captain." Lyra turned back to her readings, determination settling over her like armor. "I won't let her die." In the quarantine bay, Naira's dimmed form pulsed once, almost like a heartbeat, as if sensing the ship's change in course. Lyra pressed her hand against the barrier, watching the play of fractured light through the alien's crystalline body. "Hold on," she whispered. "Just hold on." Time slipped away like sand through an hourglass as the horizon pushed its engines to their limits. Lyra hadn't left the lab in 36 hours, surviving on synthetic caffeine and determination. The holographic displays surrounding her workstation painted her face in ethereal light as she studied the complex quantum patterns of Naira's crystalline structure. "You need to rest," Dr. Raven Park said from the doorway, her dark eyes concerned. As the ship's medical officer, she'd been helping Lyra analyze the alien's biology. "Killing yourself won't save her." "I'm fine," Lyra muttered, manipulating a 3D model of molecular structures in the air before her. "But these resonance patterns are degrading faster than we predicted. Look." She pulled up 2 overlapping wavelength displays. The discord between them was obvious even to an untrained eye, like a symphony falling out of tune with itself. "The quantum harmony that maintains her crystalline form is collapsing," Lyra explained. "It's like, imagine a song that keeps you alive, but someone slowly changing all the notes to the wrong key." Raven studied the readings. "And you think these deep-sea minerals can restore the harmony?" "They have to." Lyra brought up another display showing the quantum signatures of various Earth minerals. These formations around the hydrothermal vents, they resonate at frequencies almost identical to Naira's baseline readings. If we can synthesize them in the right combination. A soft chime interrupted them. "Dr. Bennett," Captain Reeves' voice came over the comm. "We have a problem. Military command is on the line." Lyra's heart sank. She'd been dreading this call. In the briefing room, the holographic figure of Admiral Chen filled the air with stern authority. "Dr. Bennett, you are ordered to maintain your current position and wait for military escort," the Admiral stated without preamble. "This is a first contact situation that requires proper protocols and security measures." "With all due respect, Admiral," Lyra kept her voice steady. "By the time your ships reach us, there won't be anyone left to make contact with. Naira is dying. The alien entity represents an unprecedented opportunity for study. She's not a lab specimen." Lyra interrupted, anger flaring. "She's a sentient being asking for our help. If we let her die when we could have saved her, what message does that send to her people about humanity?" The Admiral's expression hardened. "That we take our security seriously, Doctor. For all we know, this could be an elaborate trap. The military vessel will have better containment facilities." "She won't survive a transfer," Lyra insisted. "The quantum resonance patterns maintaining her form are already critical. Any disruption could shatter her completely." A tense silence filled the room. Finally, Captain Reeves stepped forward. "Admiral, I take full responsibility for this decision. We're continuing to Earth. Court-martial me if you must, but I won't let someone die, human or alien, when we have a chance to help." After the Admiral's image flickered away amid thinly veiled threats, Lyra turned to Reeves. "Thank you, Captain." He shook his head. "Don't thank me yet. Just make sure this works. And Bennett, next time maybe don't tell an admiral he's wrong about security protocols." Back in the quarantine bay, Lyra found Naira's crystalline form had deteriorated further. The once clear facets were now clouded, cracks spreading like frost across a window. But as Lyra approached the barrier, those geometric eyes of light flickered open. "You risk much to help me." The thought voice in Lyra's mind was weaker than before. "It's worth the risk," Lyra replied. "Your people, the Crystalline Collective, they must be worried about you. Are there others we can contact?" Images flickered through Lyra's mind. Vast crystal cities, but now they seemed empty, abandoned. A sense of profound loss and loneliness accompanied the vision. "Last of my kind, searching for others, when ship was damaged. You're the last." Lyra pressed her hand against the barrier. "All the more reason to save you. But I need to understand more about your biology, how the quantum resonance works. Can you show me?" More images flooded her mind, complex patterns of energy and light, the intricate dance of atoms arranged in crystalline lattices, all vibrating in perfect harmony. Lyra gasped as understanding bloomed. It wasn't just Naira's body that was crystal. Her consciousness itself was encoded in quantum patterns within the structure. "That's why you're dying," she whispered. "The pattern is your consciousness, your very self. As it degrades, yes, but you understand now, more than expected, from your kind." "Dr. Bennett," Raven's voice came urgently over the comm. "We have new readings you need to see." In the lab, the displays told a grim story. The degradation was accelerating. They had less than 48 hours before the quantum patterns collapsed completely. "We're still 4 days from Earth at maximum speed," Raven said quietly. Lyra stared at the countdown timer, her mind racing. "Then we need to find another way. What about the mineral samples we already have on board? If we could replicate the resonance patterns." She worked through the night, testing combinations of minerals in the ship's synthesis chamber, trying to match the complex frequencies that kept Naira alive. Each failure felt like a personal defeat, but each attempt taught her more about the incredible biology of the crystalline beings. As dawn's cycle approached, Lyra received an encrypted message from an unexpected source. Dr. Jin Wong, her old mentor from the Xenobiology Institute, had heard about their situation. "The military's mobilizing to intercept you," he warned. "But I may have something that can help. Sending you data from some classified research into quantum crystalline structures. Don't ask where I got it." New possibilities unfurled in Lyra's mind as she studied the data. It wasn't just about the minerals themselves. It was about the conditions under which they formed. The pressure, the temperature, the precise moment when matter transformed into something new. "Captain," she called over the comm. "I need you to do something crazy. Crazier than defying military orders and risking an interstellar incident. Much crazier. How do you feel about creating our own hydrothermal vent in space?" The silence that followed was heavy with implications. Finally, Reeves sighed. "Tell me what you need." As Lyra outlined her plan, she glanced at Naira's dimming form through the quarantine bay cameras. "Hold on," she whispered. "We're not giving up." "This is either brilliant or suicidal," Chief Engineer Marcus Singh said as he studied Lyra's hastily drawn plans. "Probably both." They stood in the Horizon's engine room, surrounded by the hypnotic pulse of the ship's quantum drive. Lyra had spent the last 4 hours explaining her idea, using the drive's containment chamber to replicate the extreme conditions of Earth's deep-sea vents. "The quantum resonance from the drive core should match the frequencies we need," Lyra pointed to the holographic simulations floating between them, combined with the mineral samples we have on board. You want to create a miniature underwater volcano in our engine room, Marcus interrupted, while we're traveling at near light speed, with military ships probably in pursuit. That's an oversimplification, but essentially yes. The engineer ran a hand through his graying hair. The containment chamber wasn't designed for this. One miscalculation, and we could breach the quantum core. Then we better not miscalculate. Lyra met his worried gaze. How long to modify the chamber? 6 hours, minimum. But Dr. Bennett. He glanced at the readings from quarantine. Your alien friend doesn't have 6 hours. Then we'll do it in 4. As Marcus's team began the modifications, Lyra returned to quarantine. Naira's crystalline form had deteriorated to the point where she was barely recognizable, more like a rough sculpture made of frosted glass than the being of living light she'd been. You doubt? The thought voice was so weak Lyra barely caught it. No, she said firmly. I'm worried, but I don't doubt. There's a difference. A flutter of amusement crossed their mental link. Humans, so certain, even when wrong. Hey, that certainty might save your life. Lyra pressed her hand against the barrier. I need to know something. The images you showed me, of your empty cities, what happened to your people? Sadness rippled through their connection, deep and ancient. Evolution. Transformation. Most of my kind transcended physical form, became pure energy, pure thought. But you didn't go with them. Someone had to remember, had to preserve what we were. Images flickered through Lyra's mind. Crystal spires holding countless records, libraries of light containing the history of a civilization. I am memory keeper. All that knowledge, Lyra whispered. All those memories, they can't die with you. We won't let them. The ship's comm system crackled. Dr. Bennett to engineering. We're ready. The modified containment chamber looked like something from an alchemist's fever dream. Marcus and his team had rerouted power from the quantum drive, creating a specialized field that would hopefully replicate the pressure and energy conditions of a deep-sea vent. The mineral samples are in place, Raven reported, monitoring the molecular synthesis readings. But Lyra, even if this works, transferring the result to quarantine will be tricky, Lyra finished. I know, but we're out of options. Captain Reeves entered, his expression grim. Military ships have changed course to intercept. We have maybe 2 hours before they're in range. Lyra took a deep breath. Then let's do this. Marcus, start the sequence. The chamber hummed to life, energy fields shimmering as pressure and temperature built to impossible levels. The mineral samples began to glow, their molecular structures transforming under the extreme conditions. Quantum resonance patterns are stabilizing, Raven called out, beginning to match Naira's baseline readings. For a moment, everything seemed to be working. Then alarms screamed to life. Containment field is fluctuating, Marcus shouted. The pressure's too much. Hold it together, Lyra ordered, making rapid adjustments. We're almost. The chamber erupted in a blast of light and energy. Emergency shields snapped into place as equipment sparked and failed. When the chaos cleared, a single crystal floated in the center of the chamber, pulsing with an inner light that matched the quantum frequency they'd been trying to achieve. It worked, Lyra breathed. Then louder. It worked. We need to get this to quarantine now. But as they carefully extracted the crystal, new alarms blared through the ship. Military vessels dropping out of hyperspace, Reeves announced. They're ordering us to cut engines and prepare for boarding. We don't have time for this. Lyra grabbed the containment unit holding the crystal. How long to reach quarantine? 2 minutes by normal routes, Marcus said. But they'll have us locked down by then. Lyra thought fast. The maintenance tunnels. They run directly from here to the medical level. Those tunnels are barely half a meter wide. Then it's good I'm not claustrophobic. Lyra was already opening the access panel. Hold them off as long as you can. She crawled through the narrow tunnels with the precious crystal clutched to her chest, using her elbows and knees to propel herself forward. The ship shuddered as the military vessels locked on with tractor beams. Running out of time. Naira's thoughts brushed her mind, weaker than ever. Almost there, Lyra gasped, ignoring the bruises forming on her elbows. Stay with me. She burst out of the tunnel into quarantine, just as armed soldiers entered through the main door. Stop right there, they ordered. Lyra ignored them, rushing to the barrier controls. As she initiated the transfer sequence, she felt the cold press of a weapon against her back. Step away from the controls, a stern voice commanded. You don't understand, Lyra said, continuing the sequence. She's dying. This is your final warning. Lyra. Naira's voice in her mind was barely a whisper. Thank you for trying. No. Lyra slammed her hand down on the final control. The crystal shot through the barrier transfer port just as the soldier grabbed her arm. Time seemed to slow as the crystal reached Naira's deteriorating form. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then light exploded through the quarantine bay, so bright everyone had to shield their eyes. When the light faded, Lyra blinked away spots to see Naira's crystalline form beginning to rebuild itself, cracks healing, clouds clearing, inner light strengthening. The quantum harmonies were restoring themselves, creating a song only Lyra could hear in her mind. The soldiers lowered their weapons, staring in awe as the alien's true form emerged, a being of living crystal and light, beautiful beyond description. Well done, Memory Keeper. Naira's voice rang clear in Lyra's mind. You have preserved more than you know. As Lyra watched Naira's restoration through tears of relief, she realized this wasn't an ending, but a beginning. The real questions about Naira's people, about humanity's place in a universe of crystalline civilizations, about the connection they'd forge, were just starting to unfold. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she heard a harmony she'd never noticed before, as if the universe itself was singing a new song. The quarantine bay had become the center of a diplomatic storm. Military officers, scientists, and government officials crowded the observation area, all trying to make sense of what they were seeing. Inside, Naira's restored form cast prismatic patterns across the walls, her crystalline structure now perfectly harmonized. Lyra stood her ground as Admiral Chen paced before her. Do you have any idea what you've done, Doctor? The protocols you violated. I saved a life. Lyra replied simply. Everything else is just bureaucracy. Before the Admiral could respond, Naira's voice echoed through everyone's minds. She preserved knowledge that spans millennia. Your protocols seem insignificant in comparison. The Admiral stumbled back, unused to telepathic communication. Lyra hid a smile as she approached the barrier. The connection between them had grown stronger since Naira's restoration, as if the quantum harmonies had somehow synchronized their consciousness. How are you feeling? Lyra asked. Restored, but changed. Naira's geometric eyes studied her with newfound intensity. The mineral synthesis, it carried traces of Earth's quantum signature. I am now partially of your world. Is that a problem? No. Amusement colored their mental link. It is enlightening. Your world sings with frequencies my people never imagined. Listen. Suddenly, Lyra's awareness expanded. She could feel the quantum vibrations of the ship's hull, the complex harmonies of its crew's cellular structure, the deep resonance of space itself. It was overwhelming, beautiful, and terrifying all at once. Dr. Bennett. Raven's concerned voice snapped her back to normal awareness. Your neural patterns just spiked off the charts. I'm fine. Lyra steadied herself against the barrier. Naira was just showing me something. You are more receptive than expected, Naira observed, perhaps because you were exposed to my quantum frequencies while they were unstable. You have begun to resonate. The implications of that statement sent ripples through the assembled officials. Dr. Wong, who had arrived with the military ships, stepped forward eagerly. Fascinating. Dr. Bennett, we need to run a full analysis of your neural patterns. If human consciousness can actually synchronize with crystalline quantum frequencies, she is not your experiment. Naira's thought voice carried an edge of steel. She is, what you might call, my student. More chaos erupted as officials argued about quarantine protocols and potential contamination. Lyra ignored them, focusing on the new awareness humming beneath her normal senses. The universe had depth she'd never imagined, layers of quantum harmony that made her previous understanding seem shallow. The memories you carry, she said to Naira. I can almost hear them now, like songs just out of reach. Yes, my people's history, their achievements, their transformation, all preserved in quantum patterns, patterns that now resonate with your own consciousness. Why me? Why show me this? Because you proved something my people forgot long ago, that evolution can move in many directions. They sought transcendence through pure energy, pure thought. But you show that physical beings can achieve new awareness while remaining connected to the material world. Captain Reeves cleared his throat from nearby. As fascinating as this is, we have a practical problem. Earth governments are demanding we bring you to a secure facility for consultation. No. Naira's form shifted, light patterns changing. I will not be confined, but I will share knowledge freely with those who prove worthy. And how do we prove worthy? Admiral Chen asked stiffly. By learning to listen. As Lyra has. Naira turned those geometric eyes to the assembled crowd. My ship is repaired. I will establish an orbital research station where those who wish to learn may come. But it must be by choice, not force. The Admiral's face reddened. You can't just. I can. I will. And if you attempt to interfere. The lights in the quarantine bay flickered as Naira's power flexed. Remember, I am a being of quantum energy. Your technology exists because of principles my people mastered eons ago. Hours later, after endless debates and hastily drafted agreements, Lyra stood alone with Naira in the quarantine bay. The barrier between them seemed thinner somehow, as if their quantum resonance was slowly eroding the physical separation. Will it be dangerous? Lyra asked. This change in my consciousness. All evolution carries risk, but you have already proven your adaptability. Naira's form shifted closer to the barrier. The real question is, are you prepared for what comes next? What does come next? 3 months after Naira's restoration, Earth's first quantum resonance research station orbited the Moon. Its crystalline architecture merged seamlessly with human technology, a physical embodiment of the harmony its creators sought to understand. Lyra stood in the central chamber, her consciousness expanded through quantum resonance as she helped a group of scientists attune to the station's frequencies. Her own transformation had progressed steadily. She wasn't crystalline like Naira, but her awareness had evolved to perceive and interact with quantum patterns in ways that defied conventional physics. Remember, she guided them. Don't try to force the connection. Let the harmonies find their natural sync point. She felt Naira's presence before seeing her, their quantum frequencies chiming in familiar greeting. The crystalline being had grown more radiant over the months, as if her interaction with humans had awakened new facets of her own evolution. They learned quickly, Naira observed as the scientists began to perceive the subtle quantum songs around them. Humans are adaptable. Lyra replied with pride. Once we understand something is possible, we'll find a way to achieve it. Yes, it is why you succeeded where my people failed. They sought to abandon physical form entirely, seeing it as a limitation. But you, Naira's geometric patterns shifted in what Lyra had learned was amusement. You simply expand your understanding of what physical form can be. The station's alerts chimed softly. Dr. Wong entered the chamber, his normally composed face showing excitement. The deep space arrays just picked up something. A signal, harmonic patterns we've never seen before. Lyra and Naira shared a resonant pulse of awareness. They had been waiting for this. In the observatory, holographic displays showed the signal's origin, a distant sector of space where quantum frequencies danced in complex patterns. To normal human senses, it would have appeared as random energy fluctuations, but to their enhanced perception, it was clearly a message. The collective, Naira's thought voice held wonder. They sensed the new harmonies we have created. They are curious. Your people? Lyra asked. The ones who transcended. Yes, they have existed as pure energy for millennia, watching the physical universe from outside normal spacetime. But now, the message patterns shifted, forming new harmonies. They wish to understand what we have achieved. Dr. Wong studied the readings with growing excitement. These energy patterns, they're similar to the quantum signatures we've been developing in human consciousness. Are they? They want to learn from us, Lyra realized, just as we've been learning from Naira. A true exchange between physical and energy beings. More than that, Naira's form pulsed with intensity. They see what we have created here, a bridge between states of being, matter and energy in harmony rather than opposition. They wish to return. The implications stunned everyone in the observatory, an ancient, transcendent civilization wanting to learn from humanity. The potential for knowledge exchange was staggering. Can they? Lyra asked. Return to physical form after so long as pure energy, with help, with understanding of how consciousness can exist in both states simultaneously, as you have learned to do. Naira turned those geometric eyes to her. Will you help guide them, as I guided you? Lyra felt the weight of the moment, the convergence of evolutionary paths that had seemed destined to remain separate. We'll need to expand the station. Create spaces where energy beings can safely transition. The engineering challenges alone will be unprecedented, Dr. Wong muttered, already making notes. The power requirements. The challenges are part of the harmony, Naira reminded them. Each problem solved creates new resonance patterns, new possibilities. Over the next weeks, the station hummed with preparation. News of the collective's interest sparked both excitement and concern on Earth, but the success of the quantum resonance research had already begun shifting humanity's perspective on what was possible. Lyra worked tirelessly, helping design quantum interface chambers where energy beings could safely interact with physical matter. Her unique position, part human, part quantum resonant, made her the perfect bridge between worlds. The night before the first attempted transition, she stood with Naira in the station's observation dome, watching Earth gleam below while quantum harmony sang around them. Did you know? Lyra asked. When your ship was damaged, and you found us, did you know this was possible? I hoped, Naira admitted. I was the memory keeper, watching physical civilization evolve while my people existed in transcendent isolation. I saw humanity's potential, not just for technological advancement, but for expanding consciousness while remaining grounded in physical reality. So getting stranded near our ship wasn't an accident. The damage was real. The danger was real. Naira's form shimmered with affection. But choosing to trust you, that was destiny harmonizing with choice. Lyra laughed. Now you sound like a quantum physicist, and a poet had a child. Perhaps that is what we all are, matter and energy, science and art, physical and transcendent, finally learning to exist as both. The station's systems pulsed as the first transition chamber came online. Soon, they would attempt to help a being of pure energy take physical form again, bridging a gap that had seemed unbridgeable. Are you ready? Lyra asked, feeling the approaching energies of the collective like distant music. Together, Naira replied, her crystalline form resonating with anticipation. We will sing new harmonies. As the chamber filled with swirling quantum patterns, Lyra felt the boundaries between matter and energy, between human and alien consciousness, between what was and what could be, beginning to blur. Not dissolving, but harmonizing into something greater than the sum of its parts. The universe, it seemed, had been waiting for its children to learn to sing together. And the song was just beginning.